In this lesson, I am going to show you how you can take advantage of slicing in Photoshop, especially when you're creating large images for the web or you're trying to divide up an image so that you can have separate hyperlinks or for an easier, faster download time. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start out with this wave pattern.psd, and of course this is in your chapter 10 folder, and I'm going to drag in some other images. So I'm grabbing hold of the drum image and dropping that in, closing this file up, taking the flute image in, closing that file up, and then taking in the clarinet and closing that file up. So perhaps I'm creating a navigation bar and I want somebody to be able to click on these various instruments in order to go to a location on a website. So I'm holding down my command key and just using the auto select to drag these around. And maybe I even want to go ahead and set these up so that they're evenly distributed. So I'll take all three of these layers, and you'll notice that once I have selected all three layers, the Align and Distribute buttons appear up in the options, and I'll go ahead and choose to distribute horizontally based upon the centers. Now, because of this flute kind of extending beyond this area a little bit, it looks like I might have to take this middle layer, holding down my command key and clicking on it. Let me deselect the other ones. There we go. And using the arrow key to visually nudge this because they do extend beyond that center area a little bit. Now, continuing on, I'm going to go ahead and set this up as a navigation bar. And to do that, I can do this one of two ways. I can choose to divide my image up so that I can have separate hyperlinks and slices by having the ruler visible, so you can press Command or Control R and dragging out guides. So I can do this visually. I can choose that this is where I want to split up this image, and then I can go to the Slice tool, and you'll see that the Slice tool is hidden in the Crop tool. Now, once you have guides created and once you're on the Slice tool, up in your options, you see this great little button that states Slices from Guides. And if you click on it, you have automatically created 3 slices. So let's choose the Slice Select tool, and you'll notice that I can click on these as 3 separate items. Now, I'm going to undo this just for a moment. I'm pressing Command Z and Command Option Z to go back a couple times. In Windows, that's Control Alt Z. In this case, I might have to create custom guides, but if you're creating a navigation tool where you have evenly sliced areas that you want to create, you can go back to the Slice Select tool. You can click on the initial slice, and whether you realize it or not, there's one slice that has been created for every one of your images, whether you're doing web graphics or not, and that's that little icon up in the upper left-hand corner, the little number stating this is slice number 1. So I've selected this, and I can choose Divide, and I can choose to divide vertically into how many slices I want. In this case, I'll choose 3, and you'll see that I do have a preview so that if I do it incorrectly, I can fix it right away, and then I can click OK. But this evenly divided this up for me so that I can take a look at this, take my Move tool, and choose that maybe this guy should nudge over a little bit, and this one looks okay, but this one, I'm holding down my command key and clicking, I'm going to nudge over this way, and now I know they're fitting exactly within those areas. Now, to continue on, I've created the slices, but I really haven't done anything with them. If I choose my Slice Select tool and I click on each one of these, each one can have its own attributes. So like for instance, I can take this first slice and I can click up here in the options. Photoshop comes up with a default name based upon the file name. I can type in a URL, like for instance, maybe when somebody clicks on this, I want them to go to adobe.com. I can even set up a target, so if you know anything about HTML, blank will create a blank page, or you can just leave it alone and it will replace the page itself. Now I can put a message text in, alt tag. Alt tag is always a good idea. So like for instance, if this is actually going to go to drums, I might type in drums to let them know that that is the page they're going to, and it also is really helpful to anybody who's using a software reader on their websites. Maybe they've got difficult seeing or whatever it may be. So I'm going to click on OK. And then I'll click on the second one, and you'll notice that if I come up to these options, I have a totally different set of options. So for this one, just to indicate something a little bit different, I'll just have this go to agitraining.com and click OK. And on the last one, we will go to a really great website, and that is totaltraining.com. Okay, so I've filled in this information, and now how do I save this and make this work? Well, all I have to do is simply choose File, Save for Web and Devices. You'll see that in here I can use my Slice Select tool, and I can click on each one of these. Now, why is that important? Well, I can actually optimize each one of these differently. I can also click on one and shift-click on the others and choose, hey, you know what? I want these all to be JPEG. Now, why would I choose JPEG? There's a lot of solid colors here. There's also these smooth gradations in the background here. And so if I do choose GIF, you'll see that we'll get some funky results unless I go up to a really high value in my colors. And that still doesn't look all that great, and I'm at 32K. Whereas if I go back to JPEG, I'm at a 30 and it looks a lot better. So again, it's all based upon quality issues and how far you want to take it. Now, in this case, I don't really need matting, and that won't affect anything because there's nothing transparent here, so I'll just click on none so that it's not visible. I am saving this as a JPEG high quality, and I also have my slices here, and I'm going to go ahead and preview this. So I'm clicking on the preview button that's down in the lower left of your Save for Web and Devices window, and when I bring this up, it shows me what this image is going to look like. It shows me the code that's going to be created. And notice that as a default, Photoshop will create table code for you. If you know anything about HTML, you realize that maybe depending upon the site you're creating, you might not want to use table code, which is not a big deal. This is just the default. But what I want you to see is that my options work. And you'll see that I created a new blank web page that took me to Adobe. If I come back, this should take you to AGI Training, replacing my page. So I'll go back and then Total Training. So my links worked. My attributes that I said all worked fine. I'm going to go back and choose to save this. And I'm going to go ahead and close all those tabs. So I'm still back in this window. I previewed this. I tested it. It all looks great. But when I click on Save, let's say that I want to go ahead and put this in a folder, and I'll just put this into my project files. And I'm going to leave this loose in my project files right now, but I want you to see that right now the only thing that would get saved if I press save right now would be the images. But I can also choose to save HTML and images or just the code itself, HTML. I'm choosing HTML and images. Settings, I'm going to choose other. And the reason why is because I want to come in here and perhaps I want to output to XHTML. I can set that up and then also go in and change all my preferences for code. But then I can also choose that for slices that I don't want to generate a table, but I want to generate CSS. And this will create ID tags for each one of my slices. So whether you want to do a table or whether you want to do CSS, you've got your choice in here. And when I click on OK, I can come back in here. I'll choose that, yes, this is wave pattern HTML. I'll save that. I'm going back into Dreamweaver and I am going to choose File Open. Go back out to my desktop into my project files. Find my index page called wavepattern.html, and here we go. And if I click on these items, you can see that these are individual ID tags. In fact, if I go in to show you the code, you see that these slices were converted into div tags. And so there's no table involved. If you want to keep your site strictly based upon CSS, this is the way to go.